Well, ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? So welcome to our 10th Lord in the 9th house video, as in what happens when the planet that controls your 10th house is sitting in the 9th house in your horoscope. And as always, if you do not know where your 10th Lord is placed and where your other planetary placements are, for that check out the links here and check out my full astrological report, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects of the Speed of Light, including all my other options. So, if you may not know, just yesterday I was like just in bed, like half dead. I had a really massive fever and chills, and so that's why I didn't make the video yesterday. And I've been working non-stop on the magazine that's coming out in July, and every day I set a project for myself for the magazine, and until that's done I don't feel rested. So, and I have so much other work that I'm doing that it becomes late night, and then finally my body just gave out yesterday. I got up from my office, went up to the bathroom, and suddenly felt dizzy. My body felt exhausted. I just went and just threw myself on the bed, and next thing you know, I'm just gone. But thanks to my wife, who's in the medical field, she knows exactly what to do. So by 2 or 3 a.m. today, I broke my fever, and then, I'm finally back to normal. It was pretty quick, Usually it'll take you 2-3 days to get over something like that. But, back to the grind again and gonna take it easy. So, what is 10th house? Well, I have made a video on 10th house, 10th Lord through houses and career titled, and which I made last week. You need to watch that, which is a 7-minute video regarding what 10th house is. It is not your career. It is your work environment. And in short, it is your relationship with the father, relationship with the government, relationship with authority. It is your fame out there, what you are known for, how your reputation is out in society. So that's what this 10th house represents. It's how you're recognized in the world. And 9th house is a house of what? Religion, spirituality, postgrad studies, philosophy, PhD, foreign lands, pilgrimage, going studies abroad. Okay, it's a house that makes you experience perhaps different culture and different religion. So when 10th Lord goes into the 9th house in Vedic astrology, it is said it's a bad thing because of the fact it is 12th from the 10th house, meaning it's a loss of the 10th house. But it's not really true. Okay, what 10th Lord goes into the 9th house, what this shows is that your work environment is all about getting higher learning, using your higher philosophy, your brain, your higher mind to do your job. You are perhaps traveling for work because 9th house is the house of long distance travel. You travel a lot for work. That will be your work. Perhaps you teach in a university because 9th house is a university setting. Your job perhaps is a lawyer. Okay, so you're a lawyer. But you might be working in a university as a lawyer, which is quite common in US. I mean, this whole country is run by the law and lawyers. So that could be your field, okay? And since 9th house represents religion, philosophy, spirituality, religious activities, shows your work could involve being somebody who is in these kind of activities. Whether you are a doctor for a religious organization, whether you're a priest working in a church, whether you are a lawyer working in a spiritual organization, you are working in this kind of a setting. But mainly what this shows is that your true environment, you always want your environment to be philosophical, to be surrounded by higher knowledge, to be surrounded by people of higher caliber, or you're the kind of person who just wants to travel for work. Kind of like that movie Up in the Air with George Clooney. That's the movie that kind of be represented by 10th Lord in the 9th house. The guy constantly was traveling and was obsessed with traveling. He loved traveling. He didn't want to be home. And it's one of my favorite movies. So that shows that. 10th Lord in the 9th house can show that in the time period, like Mahadasha of the 10th Lord in the 9th house, you will perhaps use religion as your way of work, spirituality as your way of work. Like remember, if 9th and 10th Lord are conjunct in the 9th house or the 10th house or any other house, kind of makes for a dharma karma adhipati yoga, meaning that your work becomes higher faith, religion, philosophy, and these kind of activities. Okay, so that's what it really represents. It shows you have a great relationship with your father. and authorities. You respect your father, you respect your authorities. You gain knowledge of faith and religion from your father and gurus, because ninth house is gurus. Your gurus might become your bosses. Your father may become your boss, meaning you're working for your father. Okay. Now, depending upon what planet is controlling the 10th house and going into the 9th house will differentiate some of these factors. So obviously, let's tackle that. Let's say if Sun controls your 10th house and Sun goes into the 9th house, what this shows is that your work environment will be all surrounded by people of authority, working with the government, and perhaps working with the CEO and CFO of some company. Your work environment shapes your personality, and it shapes your ego, which is all about philosophy, higher learning, spirituality, religion. Because here Sun goes into the 9th house, which is a Sattvic house, and the Sattvic sign of Moon, Cancer. So usually these people grow up in a very religious environment, very strict belief system environment. And so they can become lawyers, they can become, really authority on religion and faith, or a real authority on, government and how government law is taken care of. But your work environment will always be surrounded by people of authority. Let's say if Moon controls your 10th house, Moon goes into the 9th house. What this shows is that your work environment will be to communicate of higher things, higher philosophy, higher religion, higher spiritual things. Your mind is always about looking into the higher intellectual side of life for work. Your work could involve being a writer, being a publisher, because remember, 9th house is a house of publishing as well. 3rd house is where you write, directly opposite is where you publish. So here, Moon being in the sign of Gemini can suddenly show you that, my God, you have so many higher ideas that you want to put into action. So these kind of people can make great writers, great entrepreneurs who have this higher vision of the world. They feel that they are the one who needs to bring the world to a higher status, higher philosophical living. So they want to communicate with that. So they become teachers, they can become preachers of higher knowledge. But their work environment will really be all about communicating for a higher purpose. So whether you're a lawyer, doctor, anything, you're always going to be talking and communicating about higher social welfare. Let's say if Mercury controls your 10th house, Mercury goes into the 9th house, shows that you have your work environment really surrounded by using your higher analytical and logical mind to perhaps take care of finance, take care of money. You are the kind of person who finds a job or finds his work after you go to higher education, like MBA, master's degree. And it definitely shows that your work will involve you going to, different places, perhaps going to study abroad just so you can work. Like even if you're at work with this kind of a Mercury, your work will send you to study abroad, because Mercury is about education. It's all about constant learning. So you're in a work environment where you constantly have to update yourself. So whether you are a software programmer, a doctor, a lawyer, you always have to travel long distances to attend conferences to educate yourself, where somebody in the same department where you're working may not be traveling. The reason why you're traveling is perhaps because of this alignment, and you go out, perhaps communicate to other people of other cultures and other religion, and perhaps that's your job, to communicate with people of different ethnicity. Let's say if Venus controls your 10th house, Venus goes into the 9th house. It shows this kind of a person has tremendous love for higher philosophy, but more so of experiencing different culture, different ethnic backgrounds. They're the people who just want to take off for work and travel. They're the people who want to be one of those, like travel channel hosts, like Andrew Zamazian, who just wants to experience life in the most creative way while traveling. And he wants, or she wants, their work environment to be about creativity, about experiencing art, culture, higher philosophy, and experiencing different cultures. So these are the people who will not really do well in a corporate field. They really will do well while they're traveling, while they're out there experiencing different faith and religion, and that's how their work environment comes out to be. Let's say if Mars controls your 10th house, and Mars goes into the 9th house, shows Your work environment is all about motivating other people. It's all about lifting people and saying, hey, you can do it. You make this great sports coach with this kind of a position. Your position could be about somebody who perhaps maybe in a higher medical field. You're like a surgeon who goes out to different countries and worlds and takes care of people and helps people. Or your work revolves around protecting people in a different country. Like what? Like a soldier. Mars is a soldier, a fighter, a policeman. In the ninth house shows you might be going for the government to other places, distant places, to do your work, to protect the people of your country. So like US has so many things stationed in different countries. That's represented by this kind of a Mars. But mainly you just here to motivate people, and you want to make people believe that there is more to just faith and religion, and there's more to life than just, following a set of rules. You are all about making your own rules. You're the kind of person who may get into power struggle with your gurus and your father because you feel that they're setting these structures for you where world is a war zone. There are no structures. So you are like, no, I'm going to make my own thing. I'm going to go in my own thing. So it's a good and bad thing depending upon how you look at it. Let's say if Jupiter controls your 10th house, Jupiter goes into the 9th house, definitely shows your work environment is all about you teaching other people, advising other people, counseling other people on religion, on spirituality, on faith. You make a great professor in university. You are the government lawyer for the government. You have the highest morals out there. At the same time, you like to study and investigate about things that are buried underground. You might be in astrology. You might be in, learning about the history of the world or history of your country, but that's what this Jupiter represents. Let's say if Saturn controls your 10th house, Saturn goes into the 9th house, shows that now Saturn wants you to work hard in building your belief. Your work environment will make you go to foreign lands when you don't want to. They'll make you go to different places where you just want to be in a confined space. Here, Saturn will make you go to foreign lands for long periods of time. It'll make you work hard in its time period. If the position of Saturn is in the 9th house, you become a very disciplinarian type person on faith and religion. You're very conservative. You're like one of those hardcore Hindus or Muslims or Christians, like evangelical Christians. You just have this one direction belief system and you want to follow that. And because Saturn is all about, compartmentalizing things, routine, hard work, organization. So you bring organization into a university setting. You're like this principal, the dean of higher education. Your work involves being surrounded by people who are very strict and disciplined, and you are amongst those people, and you have to now organize your work life with them in order to do your work. But Saturn here, after a certain time, really makes a very wise person in terms of faith, religion, spirituality, when Saturn really shows you what it's all about. When it breaks the boundaries of Saturn through its rings, which is literally in your late 30s, that's when you are really doing the real potential of Saturn, where you'll work hard to bring higher morals into society, where you will work long hours to bring some sort of a faith into this society, and that could be your work. Okay, you could be a social worker with this, a judge. You could be a routine. You could be a professor who does routine study work all day long. Okay. So guys, this was my analysis of 10th Lord in the 9th house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And again, if you want to know where your 10th Lord is placed and where your other Lord through houses are, for that, check out the links here and all my books and reports. Otherwise, I'll see you next time when I'm 110%, although I am 100%. Bye-bye.